My name is Brian Luckau, and I'm here to talk about job seeking as an autistic person and share my perspective on that. I was born and raised in Utah. I'm married with 6 boys. 3 of them are officially on the spectrum. We'll have to see on anybody else. Studying psychology at UVU with a minor in autism studies. I love learning about neuroscience and social psychology as well. At home, I like to do karate, hiking, tinkering and DIY projects. I've had about 17 jobs from what I can count, most of them in technology, and I wanted to kind of share my experiences. You can also look at asdbridge.org on the web, or look up ASD Bridge on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm trying to put all my information up there because I'm not going to be able to get as deep into most of these subtopics as I'd like to, but I'm going to try to get all that information up on my sites so that I can share them with people. There we go. Wasn't presenting properly. Okay, why this matters. Adults on the spectrum tend to have a high unemployment rate, or they'll be underemployed. They won't have a job that matches the level of their skills or abilities. Drexel University says that they have the lowest employment rate of all the disabilities. We have a disadvantage when it comes to a lot of things like body language, eye contact, articulation, and I like to say it's not about what you know. It's sort of about who you know, but it's mostly whether you can convince somebody that's never met you, in a short period of time that you're worth it, and that's the trick. When you are a job seeker with ASD and you're needing a job really bad, it can be confusing. There's a lot of you might feel like you get lucky some of the time, but the rest of the time you're floundering. You might feel hopeless, helpless. You might feel like you have imposter syndrome, which I don't know how many people know about what that is, but you feel like at any moment people are going to realize that you're a fraud and that you're not really competent. It's a common thing, especially for people who actually are capable to feel that way. Types of job seeking. I'm focusing mostly on competitive, which is most jobs, is competitive employment. There's often, there's also supported employment where there's a special deal with, like the government agencies will work with employers, and you'll have extra support. People come in and supervise to make sure that people with significant disabilities can have a way to work. And then I threw this on there, secured/sheltered employment. I don't know if that's even really a thing anymore. It was controversial because a lot of times people wouldn't even get paid minimum wage. But I'm not going to focus on that. The funding's gone away from those models anyway. My experience with job seeking, I had lots and lots of interviews, hit and miss results, mostly miss. I often got stuck at companies for years, wishing I could get out, like stuck at a job that I hate, and I would try to break out and get into something that I like more, and I would work at it until I get burned out and then stop trying for a while. I've been let go a few times. I was laid off from a company and was out of a job for like a year, with just a a small break in the middle where I was employed for about a month. But during that most of a year of desperately needing work, I learned more about job seeking than probably the whole rest of my career. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to talk about getting ready, like preparing yourself. If you don't have a job, think of this as your full-time job, looking for one. Get a binder, a folder, keep your notes in, and try to set up a routine where you don't end up accidentally rationalizing, oh, I'm not going to do this today because this other thing. You want to keep a normal routine like 9 to 5 or whatever it is. Make sure you get up and shower even if you have nowhere to go. Kind of really keep yourself on track. Practice interviews. If you're anything like me, I hated the idea of it. I hated doing it. I didn't do it for years, and I wish I would have. Do it in more than one setting. My dog there. I don't know what he's upset about. Do practice interviews in more than one setting where you're. I had times where I would think that I had it down, but then I'd go to like a different kind of building, different person interviewing me. All of a sudden, I didn't know how to say anything, how to talk, how to respond. So the more practice interviews, the more settings, the better. I strongly recommend getting a spreadsheet where you I've got a kind of an example one here. It doesn't have to look like this, but the idea is just you want to know who you've talked to about what and when and what the results were. There's a whole bunch of reasons that comes in handy. And especially like if you have autism or ADHD or anxiety and you get overwhelmed, that can be a huge plus to have that information all there about what you've done already, what all the results were. You don't have to try to remember. If you're applying for unemployment, you'll need that stuff anyway. If you're dealing with recruiters, there's other reasons that you'll need it. You'll have the phone numbers and email addresses right there. And then this was a huge thing for me, like to take a lot of the stress out of it. Like the whole process, everything, thinking of a particular interview, a particular company would just start to feel really stressful. But to have this down helped a lot. So I would write down a whole bunch of questions that I might have to answer, a 30-second about me, so that I'm not just making that up completely out of the blue when I'm asked. Some of the standard stuff that they ask you in job interviews, like what's your greatest strength, what's your greatest weakness. I hate those questions, but they're going to happen. And then even if this sounds silly, I write down the answers to, and I rehearse the answers to, if you had a superpower, what would you want it to be? What's your favorite animal? Or what kind of animal would you be? Who's your favorite actor or whatever? Because they'll have all kinds of weird reasons that they'll ask you this. They want to know like your true personality or whatever the justification is. If you have some of this ready in your mind, it'll take some of the stress out of it, and you won't have yet another thing to get flustered about and stammer about. So to me, that's been a huge help. Resume, it's like what I said about practice interviews. I hated having someone go over my resume and critique it, but I wish I would have done it more and sooner. Go across the whole resume and check it for consistency. Fonts, date formats, just everything should be consistent. That's not going to buy you everything, but you've got one base covered if you do that. Try to tell a coherent story, go through it from the point of view of someone that's never met you, and try to envision what is the story that it's telling. Tailor your resume for your industry that you're applying for, the job position, and then for the company that you're applying for. So what I had was I had about 3 master resumes one for software quality assurance, one for software development, and one for IT help desk. And I would, for each position I was applying for, I would make a copy of one of those, and then I would try to tailor it for the company and for the position that I'm applying for with whatever information I could find out. I don't know if anybody's even ever taught this anymore. When I was in high school, they told me that you print your resume on cardstock, this fancy paper. It was either cream colored or blue or whatever. I've only ever seen that get fun of the few times that I've ever seen it in real life. I don't let anybody tell me a resume has to be one page or it has to be this or has to be that, though. I've seen 17-page resumes that were great, one-page resumes that were great. Mine is usually about 2.5 pages because I try to just do it as short as I can, but still getting all the information across. And I had a recruiter that I worked with one time who told me, that she dug into what did you do at this job? What did you learn there? What did you do there? And I would tell her, and she'd say, that's not reflected on your resume. And so I expanded the resume, made it longer, and got all that stuff in there that I did at each job. And I think I started getting better results. What should you bring with you? This was also this was an easy thing to do, but to me it took a lot of the stress out of interviewing. Print out the email that invited me to the email or to the interview, with their phone number, the name of who I'm going to ask for, because you go in and they say, who are you here for? Gee, I don't know. You try to remember the name, and it really kind of just, it sets you up for being frustrated going in. So I have that stuff with me. I have a paper and pen, have that in my case, that little leather portfolio I talked about. Make sure your vehicle has gas. Go drive to the place the day before if you can, to take the stress away of trying to find the place. Then you're not spending that mental energy the day of, and you're saving it for the actual interview. Bring your ID. Sometimes you need it to get past the front desk, and if you don't have it and things get awkward, then it just sets you up for frustration again. Dress, I'm not really going to go into a lot, but I've never seen anybody get criticized for wearing, a polo shirt or a suit or anything in between. I think it's important to be comfortable, so like I won't go in a suit anymore most of the time. Maybe for some places, depending on where it is, but I would almost never go in a suit because it's just not comfortable for me, and I think I interview better if I'm more comfortable. But self-care, I say that I've had times where, like for example, somebody talked me into scheduling 2 interviews back to back. It was a disaster. I don't interview well. I start making bad decisions because it's just too much. Self-care is important for that reason, so that you are actually able to cope and do the interview well. Handshakes and eye contact. I'm kind of going to combine these two slides a little. I hate a lot of the rituals and character judgments that go along with these things, but it's important to learn if you want to get the job. They used to have seminars where they would tell hiring managers, tell everybody about a handshake you tell everything about the person from their eye contact and handshake. If they look you in the eye and they have a firm handshake, then they have nothing to hide. Otherwise, you have to wonder what's up, and they're not going to be honest with you. I think most of it is baloney. I mean, we could go deeper into the psychology about it, but we're not going to. But it's a good idea to practice this stuff. I was once told that I was the front runner and that I had the job in the bag. My guy on the inside said, "Don't worry, you've got it in the bag." And then later, when I didn't get it, he said, well, you know that guy that you shook hands with on the way out? He didn't like your handshake. So that can be important. Eye contact, it's kind of the same thing. I know one time I had to be told, like, can you stop looking down at your resume and look at me? And that was super awkward. I didn't get the job. Doesn't mean that was why, but it certainly didn't help. Try to get the names of the people that you talk to. Try to get their business cards if you can, and if it's not too awkward to ask, then you can send thank you emails. Usually it would just be to the person that coordinated the email, the interview, like the hiring manager or the recruiter that coordinated it. You would funnel it all through them, but I've done it where I send a separate email to every person that I talk to, and I think that could be a good strategy too. Plus, I keep I buy some thank you cards and envelopes, and I'll send them to the people, or else I'll go hand deliver them to the front desk. Last thing I had on my list to hit was recruiters. I've mentioned this a little bit in passing, but there's external recruiters who can be a huge help, at least in the tech industry they can. Like I would imagine this is more this way in some skilled industries. You can get jobs quicker and with higher pay if you use one of these recruiters. There's good ones and bad ones, so try to keep the ones that are helpful, and try to drop the ones that aren't, because they all have their different styles. They all have their different levels of engagement. Some of them listen to you, and some of them don't. They just want to do it their way and not listen to anything you have to say. But yeah, I'll work with 2 or 3 of them. You don't want any more than that at a time, because this gets too complicated. This is one of the reasons you want the spreadsheet, because recruiters will say, have you ever talked to this person about this job or this company? And you might be able to say, oh yeah, I've already talked to that company. In some cases they might say, when did you talk to that company? And you can say, okay, look, according to my spreadsheet, that was 6 months ago. That might be okay. They might be able to still work with you, but if it was 1 month ago, they can't, because someone else already worked with you on that. It's kind of just the rules of external recruiters. So, and I would love to go deeper into this and all the other topics, but like I said, that's just not going to happen here. I'm trying to put all the information up on asdbridge.org, so hopefully we can delve into these topics and share battle stories and help each other out in this process. Thanks, and we'll see you around.